sharing. It's fantastic. Another clip from $1 Million Worth of Game, the podcast, with Gilly Wallow and CJ Stroud. This time the conversation turned to MVPs in greatness. That's Aaron Rodgers. Or rings in really goodness. And it's Eli Manning. Take a listen.
If you had to pick a career to have, I'm going to have Aaron Rodgers' career or I'm going to have Eli Manning's career. Who career are you taking?
You want the rings, dog. You don't want.
That's all that matters, the rings.
Eli got two.
Thank you.
Did Gilly agree with it?
You are a good actor. Yeah. You are a good actor. Your reaction, bro.
First of all, look, I love CJ Stroud. Like, I love his willingness to be like, yeah, I said it. You know what I mean? Like, not worried. He's speaking with his chest. I love it. But no, I disagree. Like, this is crazy. And I don't know if he really, look, I guess he really believes it, but it comes off like you're showing I'm just about winning. All right, I don't care about anything else. But I think let's be honest about us as human beings. Like Michael Jordan said, I want to win and I want to be the reason we win. When you're great, when you're CJ Stroud level great, you want to win and you want to be the reason you win. Aaron Rodgers said it in this recent interview. I want to win. If I didn't think I could win the Super Bowl and the MVP, he said those are the two goals. Yeah. In that order, that's what great players do. If I'm great, I want to win and I want to star when we win.
But Eli was
the star of those two, right. But Eli was a 500 quarterback throughout his career, made 4 Pro Bowls. We know how it's kind of easy to make a Pro Bowl. He made only 4 of those, never was all pro, had 2 wonderful moments, some magical plays within those. But no, I would rather be Aaron Rodgers. And Rodgers got one. It's not like he didn't get any. So he got one.
So to me, I think it is an interesting conversation. Would you rather be Eli Manning or Dan Marino? I do think that is worth a real pros and cons list. You know what I mean? Where one guy is still considered in legendary status as far as talent, ability, but is also the first name listed when we say the best to never win. Do you want to be on that list? Or Eli, who has 2 unbelievable championships, and it's not just 2 championships against who they came against, all of that, but
it's that it was in New York.
Right.
If he does that anywhere but New York or Dallas, I don't think he's held as in high regard.
But
Jim Plunkett won 2.
But I don't think I don't think 1 Super Bowl, when you already have the one, the difference between 1 and 2 Super Bowls does not make up for the difference of 4 MVPs, to me. You know what I mean? And so, I'm very curious where Wilds falls on this, because I know from what I know about how you do football, you totally agree with CJ Stroud.
I'm torn, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for this.
Why?
I could see.
Really?
No, I don't. Right. Who I would want to be?
Yeah.
I mean, probably Aaron Rodgers to be 100%.
Oh, 4 MVPs?
Yeah. 4 MVPs, but can I ask you a different question?
Yeah.
Can I just switch it? Do you think this hits Aaron Rodgers' radar?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I know you love that CJ is like out here talking, but Micah talks a little too much. But now it's like Aaron Rodgers like,
this should motivate him. Look, he's got all the motivation in the world. People have written him off. He's got a nice roster, and most people don't think they can win a Super Bowl. He's got a ton, and now you got the young kid.
It's a big diss. I view this as an Aaron Rodgers diss, and there was another one.
The other one, and I'll just say it, I know we don't have it, but the other one to me was more of a direct Aaron Rodgers diss, where he says.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you gave Matthew Stafford a chance like Aaron Rodgers had, I guarantee you he might have more rings for sure. Or 3 or 4 rings.
3 or 4 rings.
No, that's a diss.
Right. And he also did he might, I guarantee. I love that construct. I guarantee maybe.
Maybe.
That was, to me, that was a clear opinion of Matt Stafford is better than Aaron Rodgers, which is, I think right now, this moment, some people believe it because Aaron's coming off the injury, but nobody thought that. Nobody thought that historically. It was never a conversation when they were both in the NFC North. Who's better? And CJ's like, I'm just telling you, I think Matt Stafford's better than this guy. And so, for one reason or another, I think you're right. He doesn't hold Aaron in the regard that I think we assumed a lot of young quarterbacks did. I don't buy. So to go back to his initial point, like Aikman's got 3, right? Mm-hmm. I would so much rather be Peyton Manning than Troy Aikman. And that's not a knock on Aikman. Like, if you're telling me I could have either career.
Well, Manning and Rodgers are in the top 5 discussion. And Peyton's definitely in that.
Yeah.
And Rodgers is in the discussion.
So, like, do you think there's a lot of people who think Big Ben had a better career than Drew Brees? Because I don't.
No.
But Big Ben went to 3, 1, 2. Had, you know what I mean? Had neither won an MVP. Right? But I think we look at Drew Brees and we're like, no, Drew Brees was better.
Brew tomorrow.
Okay, so this is such an interesting conversation to me because it just highlights the flawed thinking that we all have about counting rings. And I do agree with what Nick is saying, where it's like there's not this big fundamental difference between winning 1 and 2 versus 0 and 1. And again, I'm on the record talking about that the team itself needs to be all in, like any team that is, needs to be all in on trying to win Super Bowls, especially if you're an iconic franchise like the Cowboys, like the Eagles, or like if you have an elite player right these days, like Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, right? Like you have to be all in. The 49ers, all of these teams, like that is what the expectations are. But individually as a player, I don't think it can just be like Super Bowl or bust every single season, or that if you don't win a Super Bowl, that means you're a failure, or if that we can look at it and say, Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Josh Allen because Jalen Hurts went to a Super Bowl and Josh Allen didn't, right? Like that's what this conversation has degraded down to so much. Or Aaron Rodgers is not that good of a quarterback because he only won 1 ring. And it's like, what are we saying? We know Aaron Rodgers is elite, right? We know that. So it's just kind of a silly conversation to me in a lot of ways when all we do is just stack rings in that regard, when we can see that other players are obviously great, obviously elite, but they're like, well, they didn't win a Super Bowl, or they didn't do this. And it's just like, it's just an absurd statement. Right, Phillip Rivers is a great quarterback. He just is. And yet he did not win a Super Bowl, and I don't put the blame on him. And yet people will be like, well, he wasn't that good. And it's just like that just doesn't make sense. Andrew Luck, obviously his career was shortened, but he was obviously an elite quarterback. And yet people will be like, yeah, but he couldn't win the big game. He couldn't get there. And it's like, and then people also now always say that these players choke just because they don't succeed. There's the narrative around that Aaron Rodgers chokes in the playoffs. No, he doesn't. Just because you don't win in the playoffs doesn't mean you choke. Choking is you can't handle the moment. Like you have the ball and you're shaking and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And you just like forget how to play. That's choking. There's a difference between losing and choking. You guys know I'm hard on Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott does not choke in the playoffs. Okay? I don't see him as choking in the playoffs. He's just not good enough to win consistently against the best teams at the highest moments. It's not that he's like afraid and doesn't want the ball. That last play, famously when they ran out of time, he wanted that moment. He wanted to rip off that run. He was ready to go. It didn't unfold how he exactly envisioned, but he wasn't like, I don't know what to do. He didn't audible out of it and quickly hand it off to, Zeke Elliott was on the team right at the time. He didn't just like hand it off to Zeke and just like, here, you take it. Like that's choking. And he didn't do that. So I always take issue when players, when fans and people in the comments just immediately say, oh, this player choked. Josh Allen choked last year in the playoffs. No, he didn't. He did everything he could to try to put the Bills to win the Chiefs. They just didn't win. Lamar Jackson had a terrible outing, but it wasn't choking. It was a bad game and a bad game plan, but to me, it wasn't choking. Under that logic, Patrick Mahomes has choked in a lot of Super Bowls. He's just been lucky that the team around him has been able to pick him up and win, because he's had some terrible moments, a ton of interceptions. I guess those are just him choking in that moment, which I don't think anyone actually agrees with. But here's the thing that I really wanted to emphasize about Stroud's comments on Rodgers. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of BS, and he's actually not being honest. Straight up. This is what these athletes do, and it's so funny. They want to give the right answer. They want to try to speak to the fans, speak out there and say, I'm all about winning. That's all I care about. And it's actually not being honest. Like, people think, oh, he's being honest, that he's rather take Eli's career over Aaron Rodgers' career. And it's just not accurate. It's just, they're just lying. I know they know it too, because every single athlete knows deep down what they want to achieve. They want to win, but they also want those individual successes. They all want to be the reason why they win. Most of these guys, and now you guys know I'm a huge CJ Stroud fan, so don't take this as me like taking shots at CJ. I'd say this about any quarterback, but it's just nonsense. If CJ, I guarantee you, in no world would CJ want to win a Super Bowl, but the narrative is CJ Stroud is holding them back, right? Let's say CJ Stroud wasn't that good of a quarterback, and he was holding them back, and he was kind of a mess, and yet they still won the Super Bowl. He would not want that. He would rather ball out, win an MVP, and come up short. Every athlete wants to be able to ball out. They all want to do everything they can, especially when you're at the level of CJ. If you are a lower level athlete, a lower level player, where you know you're not going to be the greatest on the team, you know you're not going to be praised and talked about in the media, then you're okay with that, right? Especially if you've come to terms with it, which a lot of those athletes like are forced to. They're just like, I'm not going to be the CJ Stroud of the NFL. I'm going to be whoever, right? Like, when you come to those terms, then you can kind of put the team first and all of that. But these top level players, the Mahomes, the Strouds, the Allens, all of these guys, they want the glory. They want to be the best. They want to be the reason. And of course they want to win as well. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, like, it really depends. Like, even Patrick Mahomes is taking pay cuts and is even sacrificing some of his numbers in the service to win Super Bowls, but it's actually in service for himself. It's not just because he wants to win Super Bowls for Kansas City. It's because he knows to be the GOAT, he's got to win ring after ring after ring after ring after ring. That's the way it is. It's actually self-serving is what it comes down to. But I just think with what Stroud is saying, like, to me, one of the other examples of this reminds me of is when Mac Jones threw his first touchdown pass. And they were like, oh, do you want the ball or whatever? And he acted like he didn't want it, right? Like, no, it doesn't matter. This is just another game, another pass. Like, let's go. And it's just like, that's such a lie. Like, you're a fool now. You're pretending to be something that you're not, and you're trying to be something that you think that the outside world wants you to be. It's okay to be really happy that you just threw your first touchdown pass in the NFL. You're allowed to take that ball and say, man, this is great. I can't believe I made it. No one's going to say, well, you're a weak athlete. No one's going to say he's too focused on his own individual accolades and not on winning. Like, both things can be true. And in fact, most of the times when you are a star player like a CJ Stroud, Christian McCaffrey, like whoever, you playing individually the best you possibly can is what puts your team in the best possible situation to win. If you're being selfish in that regard of trying to be the best player you possibly can be, then you are most likely putting your team in the best possible situation to actually genuinely win that Super Bowl. So I just think it's absurd. No one in their right mind would ever take Eli Manning's career. No one. Over Aaron Rodgers. And he just wanted to say that to be like, I'm all about winning. Let's win those rings. And I just think it's disingenuous. I don't even think he believes it. Sometimes I'll say, I think, sometimes these guys say something that they believe in deep down. But I just don't think so. I think we see this so more and more, especially with social media. Everyone is just always trying to put on that facade. They're always trying to put this idea of who they are, this representation of who they are. And it's just so largely not accurate. And it's funny because you see a lot of non-athletes fall for it. Because other athletes know. Other athletes realize, like, they know what it's like to be sitting on the bench and you're looking at your team and a part of you is like hoping that your team loses. Because you're like, yeah, we lost because you had that guy instead of me in there. Like, put me in, coach. Like, any athlete who was not just a bona fide star throughout his entire career, which I'm sorry, 99.99999% of the people out there are not that. They all know what that feeling is like. To be like, oh my God. Like you're a part of you is actually almost rooting for your team to fail. Maybe not so much in the NFL when the stakes are a lot lower, but believe me, you're rooting for the player who's in front of you to not ball out, right? Like you're not necessarily rooting for that to happen. And so to me, this is a similar flavor of that type of situation of when you then now ask that player sitting on the bench, how does it feel that you got benched for the starter? And you're like, well, hey, you know what? Whatever helps our team win and puts us in the best position to win a championship, I'm all for it. And we just know that's nonsense. And then the problem is the media hears a line like that and they just run with it and they say, isn't John Washington so good? He's so humble. He took a back seat for the starter. Like they said that with Steph Curry, actually. Perfect example. Steph Curry did this. Steph Curry came back from an injury when they won the championship with Jordan Poole, and Jordan Poole was getting the starts. And they were just like, he's so humble. He doesn't want to disrupt the team. He's willing to come off the bench. No other superstar would ever do that. Now, there was some reality to that, but the moment he got his legs underneath him, it was get out of here. I'm Steph Curry. He wasn't like, hey, the team is going great behind Jordan Poole's leadership and Jordan Poole being the number one option. Let's continue with that. He was like, no. Get the heck out of here. And when they were both on the floor shooting a technical, one time Jordan Poole went up to go shoot the free throw. And because Jordan Poole technically had like a percentage higher than Steph for free throws, he literally, I remember, he like kicked his feet down and like was like, and chewing on his mouth guard and was like, get the heck out of here. Like, what do you do? Like, what are you doing? Who the heck do you think you are? And then Jordan Poole had to like kind of like walk away from the free throw line. So again, like, but it's just so funny because we trust some of these moments or sound bites as like such reality and truth. And I also talked about this the other day of like, we hear these random quotes. An athlete will be like, yeah, I don't fear anything. I just know as long as I put in the work and I trust that the outcome will be what it is. And it's just like, again, that sounds good because then people will run with it. Oh, wow. Patrick Mahomes doesn't fear anything. And it's like, Patrick Mahomes fears all the time. Just like you, just like me, just like everyone around the world. We all have our ups and downs. We all have our fears. There's moments that Patrick Mahomes wakes up in the morning and doubts himself. I promise you, no matter how good you are, you still sometimes look in the mirror and doubt yourself. Oh my God, can I do this? Can I be the GOAT? I guarantee you Patrick Mahomes sometimes looks in the mirror and says, will I ever be able to surpass Tom Brady? And then another day he goes, I'm absolutely going to surpass Tom Brady. Tom Brady, I'm going to pass him. I'm going to get to 8 rings. Yes, I am. I'm going to do it. And then there's other days that he has anxiety and he thinks, I'm never going to win another Super Bowl again. I guarantee it. It's a common human experience. Academy Award-winning actors and actresses think, this is very common, that after they get a role, they think they'll never get another role again. With genuine Academy Award-winning actors and actresses, it's such a common theme when you ask them that question. They all have that same feeling. Or when they get a big role, even though they've already won a big role, even though they've already dominated and they're already A-list celebrities, they have the anxiety of, I don't know if I'll be able to do this. We saw that just with Oppenheimer. And Cillian Murphy had the feeling of, I'm not going to be able to do this. And the dude's been acting since he was like, God knows how old. And has been with Nolan Productions. Like, he's been around the block. Yeah, he's no small actor. So it's just one of those things where we love to just not be honest in these situations, and especially athletes. They always try to stick out their chest and be Superman and be a man of the people, and it's all about winning. If it was all about winning and you wanted all those rings, CJ Stroud, then I dare you, take $30 million. If it's all about winning, take a $30 million contract. You will ball out. You will have the most stacked team ever. This is how you know that it's all lies. Take $30 million a year. It's all about the rings. You rather have Eli's career. Put your money where the mouth is. Go take only $30 million a season. I bet you they would do all guaranteed. I would do a 5-year guaranteed $150 million contract, 100% guaranteed. You get it all. Go take that contract if it's all about the rings. It's all about winning. Go do it because you're going to have the best team around you. You're going to be able to pay everyone. You'll be able to keep Diggs. You'll be able to do it all. Go do it. That's what I thought. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think CJ Stroud is keeping it 100% honest, or do you think he's just kind of trying to say the right thing? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.